concerns of the Bangladeshis as far as their consulate and their protection is concerned, I think that should be afforded. Having said that, I think the Yunus government would do well. I mean, it came to power with a lot of international support. People outside India are not looking at what the courts are doing or not doing. They see all the actions that are happening as being carried out by the government of India.
You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Afrida Rahman. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has expressed serious concern over attacks on minorities in Bangladesh. Now, viewers would recall that during the August 2024 incidents, Hindu homes, businesses, and temples were targeted. There were several instances of violence reported. Increased violence is noted amid Bangladesh's political instability now. Arrest of minority rights advocate Chinmoy Krishnadas has also raised alarm. So, as I was mentioning, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has said that the Indian government has taken the incidents of attacks on minorities seriously and it has been communicated to Bangladesh as well. The arrest of prominent ISKCON priest Chinmoy Krishnadas has also added to the concerns as he was, like I said, a vocal advocate for minority rights. He was detained at the Dhaka airport in October on charges of allegedly disrespecting the Bangladeshi flag during a rally. The specifics of the accusations remain unclear and he's been denied bail. I'm now joined by Amit Baruah, senior journalist, independent journalist who has reported extensively on both Pakistan and Bangladesh. Good evening, Amit. Hi, how are you? And welcome.
Hi, Afrida. Good to be on your show.
So, Amit, you are observing all that is happening in our immediate neighborhood and the statement that MEA has issued today. In fact, before we begin, I would like to play out what Ranveer Jaiswal said, and I'm coming to you with my question. So, there are serious concerns here in India as well as with regards to what's happening in Bangladesh. Let's listen into Ranveer Jaiswal very quickly as I come to you with my question.
Any update on the 8th Naval Veteran? It's close to 10 months now.
Zali?
Were they under the framework agreement? My second question says, can you give us a sense of whether now, after the various agreements with China on patrolling, whether India has got access to all 5 patrolling points?
No, I don't think this is the portion we're looking at. I'll just get that queued, Amit. Sorry for that. Yes, so let's begin. If I want your understanding of what exactly is happening there, in terms of the statements that are coming from India, the larger narrative is that since Muhammad Yunus took over, extremist elements have sort of got precedence. The banned organization is now that was banned under Sheikh Hasina is now in talks with the government. So a lot has changed, and what we see is a direct fallout of that. Is that your observation as well?
Well, I think yes, a lot indeed has changed, in Bangladesh, and some of the fears that were voiced at that time, because when those dramatic events of August happened, we really had no idea as to who was behind the popular protests. But I think the lifting of the ban on the Jamaat-e-Islami was clear that these forces are not inimical to the Jamaat. I think that became very clear, and not inimical to the BNP either. So I think that, the law and order issue in Bangladesh is something of concern. And there's no doubt that, the protection of minorities should be right on top as far as the priority of the Yunus government is concerned. And definitely, India will be watching what's going on. Now, having said that, there are concerns from Bangladesh as well. For instance, a statement has been issued by the Bangladesh Foreign Ministry, which I was seeing a little while ago, that they're terribly concerned about the demonstration that happened outside their consulate in Kolkata. And they have expressed serious concerns, and they want that, their consulate should be protected. They say that their national flag was burned. So there's the other side also. So, Afrida, India and Bangladesh have gone down this road before. Actually, it was Pakistan at that time. And they actually, signed an agreement to protect minorities on each side, because such incidents have happened in the past as well. So I think that the main thing is that both governments should ensure that the rule of law is maintained. Minority protection should be absolutely top of the line for both the governments. And as far as India is concerned, I think that the concerns of the Bangladeshis as far as their consulate and their protection is concerned, I think that should be afforded. Having said that, I think the Yunus government would do well. I mean, it came to power with a lot of international support. I think that it is in danger of losing that support if it allows such incidents to continue. Also, we are not 100% clear about the circumstances in which a lawyer was killed during those clashes. When the Hindu monk was arrested, the Hindu leader was arrested. So a lot of obfuscation, Afrida, especially on social media, both from Bangladesh and from India. So
Yes.
cutting through the clutter, as it were, and getting
Is the
through
challenge.
and understanding what's going on. I think that's quite important for both the countries to have their facts right.
Yeah, you've said it so beautifully, Amit. I was exactly concerned about this. The sort of exaggeration that we see. There's very quick, sort of reports about how ISKCON is going to be banned. And today I heard a clarification from a government official saying there is no such ban at all in place. So, that sort of a false narrative also does a lot of damage. I'm going to play out
के
one
अरेस्ट को
sound
लेकर
bite that we have
वक्तव्य
about
बयान
ISKCON this
दिया है
morning. Let's take this.
और वो कह रहे हैं कि जो चिन्मय कृष्णदास जी का अभी लेटेस्ट अरेस्ट हुआ है, जो कि स्पोक्स पर्सन थे बांग्लादेश सम्मिलितो सनातनी जागरण ज्योत, इसके वो उस समय के स्पोक्स पर्सन रहे। और उसके बाद उनके अरेस्ट के पश्चात जो भी हिंसा की घटनाएं हुई हैं और आक्रमण हुए हैं, कई सनातनियों के ऊपर बांग्लादेश के विभिन्न स्थानों पर उसका इस्कॉन बांग्लादेश कड़ी शब्दों में निंदा करता है। इस्कॉन बांग्लादेश ये भी सरकार के सभी तंत्रों से निवेदन करता है कि सनातनी कम्युनिटी के, सनातनी गुट के जितने भी लोग हैं, उनको सौहार्द सद्भावना के साथ रहने के लिए अवसर दिया जाए और उसको प्रमोट किया जाए, पीसफुल कोएग्जिस्टेंस। आगे वो कहते हैं कि चिन्मय कृष्णदास जी एक बांग्लादेशी सिटीजन नागरिक रहे और बांग्लादेश सम्मिलितो सनातनी जागरण ज्योत के एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव या उसके एक अंग रहे। वो
So, I mean, there is sort of concern about whether Hindu spiritual leaders are being deliberately targeted. And as I mentioned in the introduction, there was a specific incident owing to which the man is under arrest. But the whole worry that this can be misinterpreted, misrepresented, that would aggravate matters. How do you think that can be controlled?
Well, Afrida, as I said, these are very sensitive times and we have to be very careful. We know that many governments tend to be activist on occasion, backing one side or the other. I think governments need to eschew that. They need to concentrate on the protection of people. I think that is really the important part. And, I'm sorry to say, Afrida, the fact that there are hardly any Indian journalists in Dhaka reporting from there about what is happening. I think that adds to the confusion and the fog. And it would have been really good to see, a few Indian journalists who are based there, who understand the country, who are seeing what's going on, to be able to report from there. Because it is in such times, where emotions tend to run high and when social media adds fuel to the fire, it's important that we have a very reasoned, balanced, calm kind of reporting coming out from Dhaka. Unfortunately, we don't have that. And I think that, if India really wants to understand its neighborhood and all the troubles and the difficulties, I think that that's absolutely important. So having
that
said
is
that,
what's really missing, Amit. I want to just come in, on one issue that, because it's so important to underline this, the reporting from the ground on the exact state of affairs without adding the sort of opinions or views from either side. Because now, of course, I'll come to it. I'll play some more sound bites about how this is taking a political turn in India. The opposition is now getting a chance to question the Modi government. Why are you silent? Why is this not taken up? But before that, I'm digressing a bit, but I was talking to a fellow journalist about the Sambal violence yesterday, and this is precisely exactly what he said. that there has to be some restraint in how we are reporting these things when emotions are running high. And he made it so clear that it is because certain process and procedure was not followed that you had this sort of an outpouring of emotion, violent clashes. It was so avoidable. If only a certain procedure, by all means, have an archaeological survey. But if you do not prepare the ground in such a sensitive manner, things go out of hand. And again, we are running the same risk here as well, Amit, with this sort of irresponsible reporting and the narrative that goes on in social media.
Absolutely, I think that people outside India are not looking at what the courts are doing or not doing. They see all the actions that are happening as being carried out by the government of India. I think that is the clear thing. They are not making this distinction between the court order and so on. I mean, that's a separate issue. I mean, one would have thought that after the Places of Worship Act 1992 was passed, this would have been a closed chapter because
Yes.
India saw what happened before that. So unfortunately, the courts have let it be open. The Supreme Court has let it be, but that's something which we are not dealing with right now. The larger point that I'm trying to make, Afrida, is that it is about the rule of law and applying the rule of law to every minority, howsoever small it is, howsoever without influence it is. I think that is really the test, and I'm afraid that South Asian countries have often failed this test. And to allow, say, the local BJP head in West Bengal, to say all kinds of things, suspend trade, we will stop, vehicles moving to Bangladesh. I think it's highly irresponsible to make these kinds of statements. The need of the hour is some kind of to counsel restraint. I'm happy to see that the Mamata Banerjee government and Mamata Banerjee herself has said that this is a matter for the center, which it is. I mean, under our system, foreign affairs is handled directly by Delhi. So I really would hope and pray that Sena heads prevail, and the idea should be to engage with the Yunus government. And also, yes, India has every right to say something about what it feels is happening to the minorities, just like Bangladesh has. I think it takes really both parties have equal right to say whatever they want, but at the same time they should be mindful of the conditions in which their minorities are living. I think that should be uppermost in the minds of both governments.
This is such a sensitive time to report on Bangladesh because, again, I mean, look at what's happening with the Sambal violence and now with the Ajmer Dargah Sharif issue. If you now, at this point of time, sort of report irresponsibly on Bangladesh and say, look at the persecution of minorities there, I mean, it could inflame passions, right? I mean, that is, again, you're treading very, very dangerous ground. But I want to ask you another question about, since you mentioned West Bengal. Do we have to really worry that, with Bengal being adjacent and communal tensions are not unknown to this area, do you think that it can have a direct impact in the situation in West Bengal? And Mamata Banerjee has to, even as she talks about the union government taking the larger responsibility, also shares a very big responsibility in this.
Absolutely, Afrida. I think that it is up to her to maintain law and order, to maintain communal amity, and to ensure, because if you go by social media, as it is, there is such a platform available for all kinds of wild propaganda. We're not seeing it just now, we've been seeing it over the years. So I think that is why I was stressing the importance of having good journalists on the ground who can check their facts before reporting. Unfortunately, we don't have that, and I think that it is in such times you realize the importance of reasoned journalism, the importance of calm journalism, and to be able to put across the facts, as it were. It doesn't, facts don't have any nationalist colors, facts are facts. And journalists who are reporting them it is incumbent upon them to follow the facts and not be guided by emotion. So my own sense is that we need to really calm things down, and it would be a good idea, I think, for both governments to engage, Dhaka and Delhi to engage on this matter and try and lower the temperature.
Sheikh Hasina, of course, gets this opportunity now to sort of take a moral high ground and say, I told you so. The country is now slipping down a dangerous path, and obviously she would claim the fact that none of this happened during her regime, and this is actually extremist forces getting an upper hand. But to what extent do you think it has got to do with the fact that Sheikh Hasina was ousted and Yunus government came in?
Well, one of the things the interim government has been saying, or I hinted at in the initial days that, they would not seek her extradition if she was not allowed to make political statements. So that really that boat has sailed. I mean, clearly she is making political statements and she is going to be allowed to make political statements. So that much is clear from the statement that she has issued. And obviously, this is something which means that, India remains, really married to Sheikh Hasina in a sense, and their foreign policy is going to, one of the things is that they're not abandoning her. That's very clear. She is in Delhi, somewhere in Delhi, and she is being allowed to, speak to journalists or issue statements. So I think it's calibrated, but it's happening. So this is something which, Dhaka would have taken note of. And obviously, if they are serious about extradition, I don't know, because so many hundreds of cases have been registered against political workers that it's a bit of a joke, However, having said that, there were serious acts of violence on the streets of Dhaka. We all know about it. These cannot be wished away. And Sheikh Hasina was very much at the helm, so she bears responsibility. Now, how far is the government of India going to go to protect her is something which we need to see. And obviously, the interim government is an interim government, and there will be elections, and some different government is probably going to take power. So we remains to be seen what kind of government it is. But at the same time, I think it would be New Delhi's interest to engage and talk to and deal with any government that comes to power in the future.
Right. Amit, I also want to ask you a couple of questions on Pakistan, but before that, I'll take a quick last word on the political slugfest, the political posturing that is now happening. I'm playing out some of the sound bites here. Let's listen.
डरी हुई है और गांधी परिवार को देश की जनता ने हमेशा
I don't think this is what I was looking for. Let me just try and
उठा रहे हैं और अब तक संसद के बाहर जनता पार्टी केंद्र में सरकार
Wait, I'm just going to work that out. I don't think that was one I was
सब
looking for.
लोग चिंतित हैं, हम सब लोग कंसर्न हैं
Yeah.
और उसी सिलसिले में आज सारी बातचीत करने की क्या है, अपडेट क्या है वहाँ के, उनका स्वास्थ्य कैसा है, उनसे संपर्क, उनका परिवार संबंध में अपनी बात करने हम लोग आए थे और ईश्वर की भक्ति में तल्लीन होते हैं। तो वैसा माहौल, मानवता का ऐसा संदेश कराने वाले लोगों को कोई आतंकवादी कहे, उनको कट्टरपंथी कहे, ये तो दुनिया भर में स्वीकार नहीं होना चाहिए। भारत में तो हम लोग इसको कैसे स्वीकार कर सकते हैं। और मैं भारत सरकार से भी अपील करूंगा कि अभी तक जो कुछ हुआ है उसको देखते हुए हमें लगता है कुछ और किए जाने की जरूरत है और पूरे भारत का रसूख का इस्तेमाल करते हुए, क्योंकि एक भारतीय विचार की अस्मिता दांव पर है, भारतीयता दांव पर है, कुछ करे। अमित शाह जी गृह मंत्री हैं देश के, मोदी जी प्रधानमंत्री हैं, दोनों इस बात को व्यक्तिगत रूप से देखें। बांग्लादेश के साथ में हमारे जैसे संबंध हैं, उन सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए तुरंत उनको वहां से सुरक्षित बाहर निकाल के लाएं और हर एक उस व्यक्ति की जो बांग्लादेश में रह रहा है, चाहे वो इस्कॉन से जुड़ा हुआ है, हिंदू है, सनातनी है, उसकी रक्षा की जिम्मेदारी भी लें। हम सबकी ये जिम्मेदारी है और हम सबकी ईश्वर से भी प्रार्थना है, लेकिन भारत सरकार से हमारी अपेक्षा है कि इस पे जो जरूरी कदम है वो उठाए जाएं। इसमें किसी तरह की ढील अगर अभी तक की गई है तो उस नहीं होनी चाहिए आगे। ये अपने आप में एक फेलियर जैसा दिखता है कि जो भी डिप्लोमेसी की टॉक्स हैं या कोई ऊपर के प्रेशर डालने की जरूरत पड़े, जो भी करना पड़े करें, लेकिन हमारे पूजनीय वापस आने चाहिए, ऐसे वो जेल में बंद हों। इससे पूरी दुनिया में गलत संदेश जा रहा है।
So a lot of chatter around Chinmay Das specifically. I mean, I'm going to play out one more soundbite before I come to you, because this is from a TMC MP and it's Shatrughan Sinha who's speaking about this. So it's important in the context of Bengal.
हमको अपनी पॉलिसी में भी देखना होगा कि आज क्या वजह है कि हमको तमाम हमारे पड़ोसी मुल्क हैं उनसे हमारे रिश्ते कैसे हैं, क्या ऐसे ही हैं जैसा अभी दिख रहा है या होना चाहिए अच्छा, कि इतनी दोस्ती होनी चाहिए हमारे, ऐसी क्या बात है कि आप मैं नाम नहीं लेना चाहता इस घड़ी में, पर आप तमाम आसपास के जितने हमारे पड़ोसी मुल्क देख लें, बांग्लादेश से लेके या भूटान, जितने भी नाम लें, उससे क्यों हमारे अच्छे रिश्ते नहीं है? अगर नहीं है तो उसके होना चाहिए। और साथ साथ इसके लिए हमें लगता है कि आप कई मामले में तो आप इंटरपोल का दूसरे मुल्कों की भी मदद लेते हैं, इस मामले में तो मानवता का सवाल है, ह्यूमैनिटी का सवाल है। अपने मित्रों से ये बात करें, पहले उनसे बात करें, उनकी सरकार से थोड़ा प्यार से ये बात करें, थोड़ा कैरेट से ये बात करें, थोड़ा प्यार भरी सख्ती से ये बात करें, और नहीं तो बाकी मित्रों से ये बात करें, क्योंकि आखिर हमारे लोग हैं वहां पे, हमारा समुदाय है, हमारा वर्ग है अपना। और ये कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि फलाने लोग यहाँ की बात करते हैं, हिंदू मुस्लिम की बात करते हैं, तो बांग्लादेश क्यों नहीं जाते? हमने सुना कुछ लोगों को कैसा कहते हैं। अरे भाई, पहले बांग्लादेश जाने का सबसे पहला अधिकार किसका है, या बांग्लादेश से बात करने का सबसे पहला अधिकार किसका है? जो हम
So essentially, what a lot of this statements that are coming in hint to the fact that India has not been able to maintain very good relations with its immediate neighbors, and that is going to cost us heavily. As a concluding remark on this, and I'll bring in Pakistan as well. At this point of time, we see so much turmoil there with Imran Khan supporters out on a rampage. Now, of course, protests have been called off. Do you also view that as a serious enough matter for us and relations with both Bangladesh and Pakistan?
Well, I think, Afrida, there are two separate issues completely. Our relationship with Bangladesh stands on its own, and our relationship with Pakistan stands on its own. And you know that though we maintain diplomatic relations with Pakistan, there's been hardly any activity. I mean, Dr. Jaishankar did go for a multilateral meeting recently to Islamabad. But other than that, there's no dialogue, there's no contact, there's no conversation, there are no flights, there are no buses, there are no trains. So in a sense, it's a different relationship. I think in the whole of South Asia, whatever be India's perception, I think Pakistan is a separate category of country as far as India's relationship with it goes. I think what Mr. Shatrughan Sinha was saying in what the clip that you played out of it, I think that is something which India should take note of. That why is it that our image in our neighborhood is not optimum, that it should be better? Is it something about the way we present ourselves? Is it something about how we do business? I mean, we know that a very big business house is involved in power projects in Bangladesh. That same group is building a port in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, and is also engaged in a big energy project which might or might not happen in Sri Lanka. So I think that today India's image is important, and every country, small or big, wants to be treated equally. And I think that as the big country in South Asia, India must go out of its way to show that it is willing to deal with these countries as equals. Having said that, there are individual issues with all countries, separate issues. Nepal is different, Sri Lanka, Maldives, it's all different. But how India presents itself, I think that is most important. I mean, we also see a lot of chatter on social media, especially on right-wing accounts, saying that India's moment has arrived and, India is so powerful and so on. I think that India's power has been growing incrementally, and India's power will grow incrementally more if it is used judiciously, and if Indians and the government present themselves in a way which is easy, which is acceptable to all countries. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, we are in a complicated scenario vis-a-vis them, and as long as Sheikh Hasina is present on our soil, these issues will remain. So the larger point I'm making about South Asia is, Afrida, that India needs to be very careful in how it presents itself.
Amit, quick last question on where do you see this headed in Pakistan? We have seen this entire unending saga that has been on with regards to Tehreek-e-Insaf and the sort of support that Imran Khan enjoys since the time he's been behind bars. But as somebody who's reported from that country for a very long period, tell us, where do you see this headed? What exactly where exactly is the country headed?
Well, what we see is a rather paranoid establishment. And interestingly, both the parties which once stood against each other, the Pakistan People's Party and the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, as you know, Afrida, they're in alliance. And the third element of the alliance is the army. General Asim Munir is very much on the same page, with Nawaz Sharif and Asif Zardari and Shahbaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto. So we are seeing, but even though they won a big election, the PTI claims those elections were rigged and it was stolen from them. So I think that we have a situation where Imran Khan's party announced this big march to Islamabad on the 24th of November. It was going to be a do or die affair, and in the dead of night, the protesters were cleared, and at least 6 to 8 people have been killed. We don't know the final figures because the hospitals and the doctors have not been able to give out the numbers. But slowly, information is trickling out as to the number of people who were killed. Apparently, lights were shut off at the venue, which is in the heart of Islamabad, the D Chowk, as it's being called. It's literally close to the Pakistani Parliament, the presidency, the Supreme Court. It's very central area. So if that's the case, I think the government has a lot to answer for. At the same time, Imran Khan, his popularity is there, but the fact that his supporters melted away, especially the chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and his wife, they literally vanished overnight. Maybe obviously they couldn't resist the full might of the state that was unleashed on them, but that shouldn't have surprised them that this kind of might will be used. So I really believe that it's time for Imran Khan and other political parties and the army to bring down their stress levels a couple of notches and engage in some kind of dialogue with Imran Khan. He's not going anywhere. He's a popular man. There are lots of his critics. He's saying that he has done pretty much the same thing. Targeting political parties, taking the support of the army when it suited him. Engineering judgments against Nawaz Sharif. All the same charges that he's leveling against other political parties and the army. The same thing had happened earlier. So there is a sense of we've heard this. We've seen this serial before. That's the broad sense I can tell you. And I don't believe with the kind of cast that we have in the serial, the plot is going to change dramatically. So you have the army, which is very entrenched in Pakistan's politics, in its society, in its economy. It doesn't want to rule directly because the world has changed a little bit, and you don't want to see a uniform when you speak to a foreign dignitary. So that is one of Pakistan's problems. And also the responsibility comes directly on you. Here at least you can deflect the responsibility and say, these civilian leaders are responsible for what's going on. So I think it's, quite a tragedy, what Pakistan is going through, because there is a severe economic crisis. Energy prices are really high, electricity bills, food shortages, all these things we've seen in Pakistan. They negotiated an IMF agreement, So one would have thought that the focus would be on the economy, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And as long as this obsession with Imran Khan remains, I don't think that's going to change very dramatically, because at the same time, ordinary Pakistanis are looking for relief. They are looking for their government to deliver on the promises that were made to them. So I think we will, Afrida, unfortunately, be talking about these issues at a later stage as well.
It is important to watch the developments closely because, again, we share borders with these countries and we have also, of course, to bear some of the collateral damage if things go out of hand, whether it is because of cross-border terrorism or many other factors as we discussed. I mean, we'll have to leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a nice evening and thanks very much.
Thank you, Afrida. Thank you for having me on your show.